You know what you should do? You should follow me on Twitter at Brommer018. Link in the description. Do it now. Hello everyone, welcome along to another FIFA 21 Tactics video. It's Brommer18 here. Today we're switching our focus onto Pep Guardiola once again and his Manchester City system. So obviously we did cover that at the very beginning of FIFA 20, just over a year ago now, as of recording this anyway. But obviously there have been some changes to the system since then. There's changes to the gameplay which will be reflected in that tactic, and in particular sort of tweaks and stuff that I've sort of noticed. So there's a lot of differences, so we're going to go for that today, as well as having of course the suitable players which we didn't have on the last video. So that should all be very good. As always, if you do enjoy this video, then please be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for more regular gaming content, for notifications on all that sort of good stuff, and leave a like as well. A couple of notices before we get into it. In the gameplay, what you will notice if you're sort of looking at it every so often is that you'll notice in the first half it's a bit of a drag, it's a bit dull, there's not a lot of stuff because the opposition AI really were just passing the ball around, holding on to it, not really doing a lot. So they had most of possession. But in the second half, you'll then really notice it sort of, you know, kick off. We get a lot more of the ball. We can do a lot more. We impact the game a lot more. And you see more of those attacking patterns of play really sort of bedding in and being more successful. So do sort of just hold on with that one. But other than that, let's get into it. So first off, just a quick notice, we do have one of the positions altered here, and that is Kevin De Bruyne. We've got the normal 4-3-3 holding, but with him we've moved him up from central midfield to centre attacking midfield, and that's just so we can actually change his instructions more to replicate better sort of how he plays in real life. But we will come on to that when we do the player instructions. But other than that, you won't need to change anything else. We won't change the fullbacks this time, because we've noticed in this one, fullbacks generally do get further higher at the pitch as the natural fullback. Last season we did a lot of changing them to wing backs and so on and so forth. Don't need to do that this year, so we will be okay. So other than that, we're going to move on to the tactics. So first off, we have the defensive phase, and we've got press after possession loss here. Now Manchester City aren't as much of a extreme pressing type of team that people have sort of given credit for in the past, and in particular Pep Guardiola systems. They're more of a counter-pressing team, and that's why we have it on press after possession loss. If they don't win it back within sort of maybe 10 to 12 seconds of the ball, they'll sort of get back into their shape and form a mid-block. So we have press after possession loss to replicate that. In terms of the width, again, I found this year over the two videos that I've done so far, and I suspect it will come later on as well. I've had to do a lot of tweaking about with the width, sort of trying to find the best real balance that we can in terms of replicating the system. I found 6 to be the best this time. It does mean that you can get out to the players a little bit more. Obviously you can have a little tweak around with this because, you know, in real life they're sort of quite versatile in this sort of aspect. And the same with the offensive width as well, which we will come on to. But I found 6 to be a good little spot here. And in terms of depth, we have this on 8 as well. So they do play a high line. They want to instigate that counter press rather than have it on 10. No, we always really look to have it a little bit deeper, but still high, because then it just gives you a little bit more leeway trying to deal with the counter attack that's so overpowered on this game. Offensively, we obviously have possession. Don't need to talk about that too much. We all know why. And then width as well, as I mentioned, we got this on 7. Does mean that you can get the likes of Mahrez and Mendy, etc. Into those wider areas, create a bit more width. But I noticed that the midfielders generally still sticking closer together. If you find that they're drifting wide a little bit too much, there's a bit too much space in between, you can lower this. I think 5 or 4 will do the trick. I personally have this on 7, but like I say, you can go with what you sort of feel comfortable with here. And then players in the box, we have this up to 6, so it means you've generally got 3. So you might have Aguero, you might have one of the wingers, and then with maybe the other wingers crossing it in, and you've got De Bruyne going into the box, or usually what it would be is a fullback crossing it in, like Mendy for example, and then both the wingers and the striker are in the box. And with corners and free kicks, we have this up to 4. As always, it means that you can have an extra player in the box, but you'll still have 2 men back, which is enough to deal with any opposition counter attack that may arise out from that corner or that free kick. So that's it for the tactics, and now we can move on to the player instructions. We'll start off with Ederson here in goal. We'll work our way through the different thirds of the pitch up until Sergio Aguero. So first off with Ederson, sweeper keeper, obviously you're playing a high line. He's that last line of defence, basically an extra, kind of like a libero sort of thing. And then having one comes across as well was as further way of sort of making him that aggressive front-footed keeper. Relieves a bit of pressure off you as well in corners, always very handy. Keepers are very overprotected and quite overpowered in that sort of situation, crossing aerial situations on the game. So sweeper keeper and comes acrosses. With the two centre-backs, you don't need to change these. We've got them stay back while attacking and also normal interceptions as well. Obviously, they've gone for Ruben Dias. They've brought in Ruben Dias this year. They've got Nathan Ake as well. So you've got a couple of options there if you're using the base City team. We went with Dias and Laporte, but again, you could go with Ake. You could have John Stones or maybe even Fernandinho if you're like they did last season if you are struggling. But yeah, just keep the instructions normal there. Now with the fullbacks, there are slightly different roles and it also impacts the wingers as well. So we'll start off with Kyle Walker. What you'll notice with Kyle Walker is generally for Man City these days, he doesn't actually make too many forward runs. He doesn't really overlap that much. What you'll find is a lot of the times when they're in possession and they're on the attack, they're in the opposition's half, what he'll do is he'll actually cut inside and sort of stay around that sort of holding midfield to centre-back sort of position and that area, and that's sort of what is generally being known these days as like an inverted fullback, and they've really been the pioneers of this, particularly Guardiola. It's a way of sort of counteracting the opposition counter-attack, any threat that they may have there, and they didn't start off with this, but they sort of formed it as it went on, and now it's mainly Walker. Now they did used to do it with the left back as well, but we'll come on to that shortly because we're not going to have that with Mendy. But here to replicate that, we've got him on stay back while attacking and we've got him on inverted as well. Now, on the occasion that he does actually get forward, what you want to do is you want to do that manually, i.e. LB and A, to make him go on a forward run as he passes it, and then he'll go forward. You can angle the runs as well with the right analog stick, so it's all very handy, and it's a really good way of replicating that. However, with Mendy, what you'll find is obviously, there's a couple of players who play here. When Mendy maybe isn't fit, he's injured. Sometimes Cancelo plays here. Sometimes Zinchenko plays there. Even Nathan Ake's played there once or twice so far. But mainly will be Benjamin Mendy. And, to his game, really, it's about getting the ball wide to him, getting far of the pitch and whipping the ball in. And that's what he does. So he's not an inverted fullback. Therefore, with him, you have him on overlap and join the attack. And you'll see, as we've sort of alluded to, and we'll come on to it shortly, the wingers, their roles have adapted based on these sort of fullback positionings, but we will get to that. So that's the defence sorted out. Next we can move on to Rodri, sort of the anchor man, if you like, the pivot. Obviously, we'll have him on stay back while attacking, but then with the defensive behaviour and what I mentioned about in a recent video, the Bayern Munich tactics one, is we're going to have him on cutting lanes, because with man mark, which we used to do a lot last season, it just doesn't work. The midfielders, they don't track back enough. They don't mark the opposition midfielder, so you may as well just have him on cut passing lanes, and it will enable you to have a more effective counter press. With defensive position, we actually want to uncover centre here. We don't want him moving out. We don't want him drifting wide. That's down to the likes of the inverted fullback, i.e. Kyle Walker, which is why you've got him there. Then the central midfielders ahead of you have got to drift out over to those spaces to try and combat that threat early on rather than it being in the defensive phase. So we have him on cover centre, and it will really form that sort of triangle of him and then the two centre backs as well. Next up, we have, in this case, Bernardo Silva. Now, there's a couple of players this could be. You could have Gundogan, who's more of that hard-working, box-to-box type more player. Not quite, but he's more closer to that than what, say, Bernardo Silva is. Like, say, you could have Foden as well. But we've gone for Bernardo Silva here. And again, he's sort of that more advanced pivot. So we've got him on stay back while attacking. And the reason why we do have that is that he will still join the attack, but he'll join it in those sort of deeper phases of play. He won't be drifting into the box. If we have this on get forward, it will mean he'll be making runs in beyond the striker, which the Bernardo Silva doesn't do that, you know, and nor does the left central midfielder in this system. So we have him on stay back and we have him on stay on the edge of the box for crosses as well. And you'll find he's really just drifting in and around those advanced positions around the edge of the box. And again, he acts as that pivot, but also that sort of creative outlet. So it's really handy. And then with defensive positioning, we have him on cover wing. As I mentioned, he'll be doing that job instead of Rodri further up the pitch. Stick to position as well. He doesn't free roam because that falls more onto someone like De Bruyne, who we'll come on to now. So that is, you know, really the best way of sort of replicating his role in this setup. Next up, we've got Kevin De Bruyne, and now obviously we did move him up to cam, and the reason why is so that we could have this drift wide. So what you'll see with Kevin De Bruyne, and it's almost a trademark run, and they mention it a lot, is what happens is he's constantly drifting out onto the right-hand side and then making that run in behind. And you'll see it in game as well. He does it quite a lot, and it's really, really effective, particularly when you've got someone like Riyad Mahrez who likes to angle his runs inside as well. And it's just such a trademark thing for Kevin De Bruyne. It's replicated very, very well, actually, with these roles. In terms of all the other sort of instructions that we have him on getting to the box for crosses, and we also have him on comeback on defence as well, which is what you can do as a cam. Obviously, if we look at Bernardo Silva here, we can't have him coming back on defence because he's only a central midfielder, not a cam. So it's very, very handy. So yeah, that's it for the sort of midfield trio now. Next we can move on to the wingers. I've already alluded to the fact that the roles do vary depending on which side they're on because of the fullback. So first off with Riyad Mahrez, we've got him on comeback on defence, and we've got him on getting behind, but we've got him on stay wide, chance creation. And you'll notice in the gameplay something that's very effective, particularly in the second half. What happens is Mahrez, he starts out literally almost on the touchline, but then because he's on getting behind and also getting to the box for crosses as well, he angles his runs, so he comes from that wide position inside, and it's so much more effective. It's easier for him to get away from the fullback, and you'll find a lot of sort of patterns of play went through him in the attacking phase. So that's really, really handy. Whereas it's different for Raheem Sterling. You've got him on cut inside, but everything else is saying get into the box, getting behind, come back on defence. And what it gives you, it just gives you that variety, you know. You can go either side, and you've got a different setup. So with the right, you've got Walker, who's acting as that inverted fullback there for Mahrez, stays further wide. Or you can come on this side and you can overload it a little bit more because Sterling cuts inside, but then you've got Mendy on the overlap who's creating that width. So it gives you a lot of versatility, variation and options as well, which is a really effective way of doing it. Now, obviously, this changes a little bit depending on the personnel. So let's say sometimes Phil Foden might be playing one of the wing positions. Usually, they'll have a winger with him, in which case you'll have Foden still cutting inside and he'll angle his runs. So he's still playing as a winger, but it's more like a false winger rather than that. So it's more about the actual sort of attributes of the player rather than changing the instructions too much. But yeah, that was just sort of an example. I went with sort of the out and out wingers for this case because I think it's more effective on this game, and I think you guys should as well, but it's what you prefer ultimately. And then on to finally Sergio Aguero, the front man. Now we've got him on stay central. Obviously he doesn't drift, and nor do strikers in general in Guardiola systems. They don't drift, you know, wide really. They have to stay in that sort of in between the posts, in between the 18-yard box width, to act as that focal point, you know, to act as that pivot inside. So we got him on stay central and we got him on stay forward, but we've actually got him set him as a target man. Now, obviously, he doesn't play as like an out-and-out target man. He's not big, he's not strong, he's not an aerial threat. But why we do this is because what you'll find with Aguero is that he likes to back into people, offer a passing option, lay it off, and then go. And so the best way you can replicate that is as a target man. We don't have him as false nine because it's not like he drops off literally into those deep midfield spaces and those deeper pockets. You know, he does still stay as the front man. He does still stay on the front line. With target man, you get that ability for him to still be on the last man, play it off him, and then run in behind. So that's really, really effective, and we found it worked out quite well, particularly with him laying off other players around him like Sterling, like Mahrez, like De Bruyne. So it worked out very, very well. So that is it for this tactic then, guys. If you got any questions about the system, anything you want to know, do let me know. Also, what we have seen this season with Guardiola is sometimes he's played more of a 4-2-3-1. Maybe he's had Rodri and Fernandinho as a double pivot, or Rodri and Gundogan, etc. If you guys want to see me sort of replicate that, and there will be a little bit of tweaks here and there to the system, then do let me know, and I'll be happy to do that tactic as well. As always, please do get your suggestions in for more tactics. Lots of people do, but we'll keep going with that, and I'll let you know on that one. And as mentioned at the start of the video, most importantly, please do leave a like if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel for more regular content from the likes of FIFA 21. More tactics videos to come, and a lot more tips and tutorials as well that we will be working on. And I know we are going to finish it off there. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.